very good evening. This is GBS News 9 coming to you live from Kenya's capital, Nairobi. My name is Beatrice Njeri. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mathenge, and together we'll be taking you through the stories making headlines tonight. But first, here are the highlights.
Kila boma serikali tutawapatia shilingi 10,000 ya kutafuta makao mahali mtakaa mkingojea mpango ya serikali.
Ruto tours Nairobi's flooded areas, assures victims affordable housing will be the solution to housing crisis in slums. Defend democracy. Raila Lali's supporters as Kenya Kwanza calls him out for criticizing the government despite support for his bid to the AU chairman seat. $45,000 passports now ready for collection, Kindiki says in his second quarterly meeting. And it is not all lost for Manchester United supporters as United take on Crystal Palace tonight to launch bid for the European football. To begin our bulletin, humble yourself as we lobby for your candidacy at the African Union top seat. These were the words of the National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah to Azimio la Umoja One Kenya leader Raila Odinga after the latter went bare knuckles to call off the Kenya Kwanza government for having failed Kenyans in dealing with the current flood situation in the country. Raila was at Mukuru kwa Ruben on Saturday, where he said that the current regime had failed to prepare earlier for the floods crisis that claimed more lives and left many displaced. Sentiments that Kenya Kwanza leaders did not take lightly, thus went on the attack to tell him to humble or risk government support for his quest to occupy AU's top seat. Here is Davis Karani with the details.
Opposition brigade led by Raila Odinga on Saturday arrived at the settlement area of Mukuru, where they distributed relief food for the floods-affected families. The opposition chief, who had been silent on local issues for some time, came out loud on Saturday and exposed the government on negligence and poorly structured systems, especially on dealing with floods.
Walishindwa na hata wakikaa miaka 10 hawameshindwa. Sasa hao watu wanaona mvua inanyesha, lakini hao watu walikuwa hawajapanga mpango.
The opposition chief's sentiments were not well received by the National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah and his counterpart in the Senate, Senator Aaron Cheruyot, who cautioned Odinga for putting the government on check and warned him against criticizing William Ruto's administration that is supporting him for his AU job bid.
Mzee, unatafutiwa kazi, badala ya kujamaza utulie polepole, tena unaanza kutusi chief campaigner wako. Hii mzee yenu, shida yake inakuanga nini? Baba Raila Odinga, William Ruto anaelewa mambo ya uchumi, ndio amedhibiti uchumi. Please be humble. Respect your chief campaigner William Ruto, who is campaigning for you.
As hours elapse, days counting and months dissolving, the African Union chairperson position, which is expected to be filled in February 2025, the question that pops up basing on the majority leaders from both houses' statements is, was Raila's AU job bid support from the government meant to silence him in the country's politics?
Hii mambo ya kusema ati baba kwa sababu anaenda AU asiongee kwa niaba ya wananchi. Sisi tunataka kuambia uwezi weka Raila Odinga kwa mfuko.
Why has Raila chosen to come out and criticize the government? Has he decided not to care for the government's support on his bid? This is a question that many are asking, and it's only time that will tell. Davis Karani, GBS News.
Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga has urged Kenyans to be steadfast in defense of the democratic gains that the country has made over the years. Among the gains that the former Prime Minister urged Kenyans to defend are the freedom of speech and devolution, which he added the champions of democracy suffer despite in Usigu division Bondo Sub-County during the funeral of the late Helen Odera, a widow of the late Odindo Odera, who was the Chief Communications Officer of the Kenya's first Vice President, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Raila, who was flanked by Siaya Governor James Orengo and his Kisumu counterpart Anyang' Nyong'o, say the struggles of freedom fighters were not in vain as the country has achieved tremendous growth since the advent of devolution. He told Kenyans that his quest for African Union Commission chairmanship will not alienate him from the Kenyans, adding that he will still be available. Siaya Governor James Orengo accused the Kenya Kwanza leadership of fighting devolution by denying the county government's resources to carry out their responsibilities. He called on the clergy to stop entertaining politicians who use the pulpit to champion their political interest by mosquitoing biblical quotes to suit their interest.
One win with the car.
Jatendwa Raila Amolo Odinga, Governor Anyang' Nyong'o, and the First Lady of Kisumu
Wants to kill devolution. Kiranga, a lot of things they're doing, they are killing devolution. By denying counties funds, you're killing devolution. By saying that you must be close to the government to get development, you're killing devolution. They want to kill political parties. That is why after a party has sponsored a candidate to be a member of parliament for bond and is holding on to the ticket of the party called ODM, and then he goes into parliament and supports the party in power, that is killing political parties. Thirdly, giving false promises. The government of Ruto said that when they come to power, there will be no debt and no taxes. Sani kuro Ruto wajani kare kulungeni zakaya no kobade. An pugaido ngamajaji wa kwa salo kama. Mayido kuduchie. Tati yuku tijne jabij. Account de gacha gadubuka.
Moving on, the Environment and Labor Court has issued a 2-day ultimatum to the doctors' union as well as the county and national governments to finalize their negotiations and reach a consensus on a return-to-work arrangement. The court will reconvene on Wednesday to assess the progress made. Here are the details. The public health sector is at a risk of a collapse as the countrywide doctor strike stretches into its 54th day with no solution in sight. The Environment and Labor Court has mandated a 2-day window for the doctors' unions and both the county and the national governments to finalize their negotiations and reach a consensus on a return-to-work agreement. The court will reconvene on Wednesday to assess the progress and any agreements made.
These are given one last chance to sit down. I say you have the drafts. A lot of progress has been made. It should be obvious that these negotiations are open-ended.
This comes just a day after the Kenya National Union of Nurses, through their Secretary General Seth Panyako, asserted that nurses will join the ongoing medic strike if the Salaries and Remuneration Commission does not implement the collective bargaining agreement in the next week.
Huwezi kuambia wafanyakazi utaweka kwa kandarasi ya kudumu. Alafu baadaye kesho unapatilika bila hata kutuambia sisi. Na umetuambia sisi na tumeambia wafanyakazi ambao tunaongoza. Wanatuona sisi kama wakora. Wanatuona sisi kama watu ambao hatujui kitu tunafanya. Zile barua leo nikichukua barua kutoka kwa wizara na nipatie wafanyakazi niwaambie hii ndio serikali imesema, watasema hiyo ni uongo. Hiyo barua imetoka River Road. We have no trust in instruments from government. Government must work as a jointed institution. It cannot work as a controversies that are being meted on the health workers in this government are getting to a point of distorting everything in health sector.
On its end, the government, through the head of public service, Felix Koskei, who chairs the Whole of the Nation Approach Committee, say the government will seek court orders to institute disciplinary action against the doctors after they introduced new demands. Speaking on Friday, after the medics walked out of the talks, Koskei said upon the receipt of the court order, the government will utilize the 2.4 billion Kenya shillings allocated for hiring intern doctors for other intervening priorities like floods.
Even as we are sitting here, the money that was set aside for interns, 2.4 billion, that is sitting in the account because they have not gone, they have not reported. The more they stay, we should reallocate that money to go to other intervene on immediate and urgent issues like floods and other things. So we don't have luxury of time, and we don't have unlimited resources. We don't have money that will accommodate all the requirements that our doctors need.
This comes as the doctors' union have said that they are ready to call off the strike if the government signs what they term as their version of a return to work formula. Kenya continues to grapple with the relentless onslaught of heavy rains, which has so far left a trail of destruction and despair across various parts of the country. From tragic loss of lives to widespread displacement, the toll of the ongoing flooding crisis is starkly evident, painting a grim reality for many Kenyans. In the wake of this catastrophe, President William Ruto has stepped into Mathare, Nairobi County to assess the situation firsthand and offer assistance to the affected communities, where he promised government support and announced relief measures for those displaced by the floods. Here is more on this thing.
Different parts of the country, similar situation, from deaths to displacement. This is the reality of most Kenyans. The effects of the rains becoming unbearable. Move or be moved. This is the call the government is saying. But the response, where will we go?
Wangetuambia tu tutoe hata sora yenyewe, sisi tuko kuagiza. Sasa wakituangalisha kuagiza, tumekaa kuagiza, hatuna mtu wa kutushughulikia, hatuna hata mtu mwenye anatutetea.
The demolitions follow a government order for anyone living near rivers to leave their homes and move to higher ground, insisting that living 40 meters off the banks of a river is illegal. The devastating effects of the flooding are evident as over 230 people lost their lives, with thousands more injured and displaced from their homes. To assess the situation, President William Ruto toured Mathare in Nairobi County to provide assistance to victims displaced by heavy rains.
Our familia 40,000 tutahakikisha kwamba they have a place to call home. Meanwhile, as we have a comprehensive plan on how to sort out this problem of slum dwelling.
During his visit, President Ruto toured the Kia Michael area, where he addressed locals and assured them of government support. He announced that each affected families will receive 10,000 shillings to aid them in seeking alternative accommodation for 3 months while the government works on finding a lasting solution to the issue.
Kila boma serikali tutawapatia shilingi 10,000 ya kutafuta makao mahali mtakaa mkingojea mpango ya serikali.
The government is now asking for help to help the victims of the flood disaster while launching a fund to deal with this disaster. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says this fund will help the national and county governments to urgently address the needs of more than 300,000 people affected by the floods.
Even with extensive government-led programs at both national and county level, we appreciate the need to receive and coordinate additional support for greater effectiveness. In this regard, we are calling on our development partners, the private sector, non-state actors, and individual well-wishers to contribute in cash and in kind.
Torrential rains are forecast to continue throughout the month, and 178 dams and water reservoirs pose a high risk of overflowing. What is more, President William Ruto has warned the nation it could be about to experience its first ever cyclone, with Hidaya gaining momentum along the Tanzania coast on Friday. Susan Nganga, GBS News.
Many thanks for joining this live broadcast. We have a lot lined up for you in our news segment tonight. But first, let us take a quick break. We'll be right back with even more.
Hello everyone! Welcome to Fun Story Class. Friend, today I'm going to read the story of the ant and the grasshopper. Friend, this is a very interesting story, so listen carefully. The ant and grasshopper were good friends. The grasshopper was enjoying the fine weather, playing all day. He asked the ant for food, and ant gave him some. But my food is just enough for my family to last until the end of winter. If I give you more, we too will starve.
What exactly is that when you hear prostate cancer?
So there's an organ called the prostate that is part of the male reproductive system. The organ actually responds to testosterone. So the more it is exposed to it, the more it continues to grow.
Does the enlargement eventually lead to, and even before that, what is the difference?
When the growth is a lot, there's likely to be errors, okay? And when there are errors, that's when cancer occurs.
So are you able to tell that there is a change?
You said prostate cancer, one of the symptoms is erectile dysfunction.
Do they continue living their sexual life comfortably?
So prostate cancer is not a death sentence. For majority of people who are caught early, they're able to live life to the fullest.
Are you able to infect your spouse with this?
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You're still watching GBS News 9. Junior secondary school teachers hired internship have called upon their employer, Teacher Service Commission, to transfer them into permanent and pensionable terms based on the court ruling. Led by their leaders in Kirinyaga County, Josephat Kariuki, Emily Mwangi, and Moses Gashoki, the court ruling termed internship for the trained and registered teachers as unconstitutional and thus rendered it illegal. They said that it is time for the Teacher Service Commission to confirm them to offer services to students. The stipend also is too low considering the taxes being deducted. In a ruling delivered on the 17th of April 2024, the High Court in Nairobi declared that the Teacher Service Commission violated labor laws by hiring over 50,000 trained registered junior secondary school teachers as interns.
More Guru's power! Guru's power! We want the government to employ the GSS teachers.
Sisi tumerepresent GSS hapa tukisema ya kwamba sisi kama intern tunafinyiliwa sana. Hatufai hata kuitwa intern, hata koti imesema hivyo, hatufai kuitwa intern. Ile mshahara ambayo tunapewa haitumudu maisha yetu. Sasa kama saa hii tuna struggle kwa sababu ile mshahara hata tunapewa inakatwa alafu unabaki hakuna kitu. Sasa wengi wetu tunaanza familia, kama huyu ataenda aulize pesa iko wapi, hana. Unaona? So
TSC ilipewa court order. Na hiyo court order ilikuwa inasema internship ni illegal. Inasema ikiwa illegal basi walimu ambao tumeemployiwa tukiwa under internship, then it is our due right. It is our right kukompensetiwa ile wakati wote wamekuwa wakitupatia pesa ambayo haifikiani na haifikiani na structure vile ambavyo inafaa kuwa.
The TSC to do something outside the law.
We are just asking them. It is within your law, it's within your mandate to employ teachers. It is within your mandate to register them. And as the court said, the TSC cannot register untrained or unqualified teachers. So every teacher who bears a TSC number is qualified. So we are just asking them, can you confirm the interns? And it is not something outside the legal mandates. It's something that is within their jurisdiction. The workload is rather demanding. It's very high, by the way, considering that we are JSS teachers and we are short-handed. We are fewer than expected. And therefore, we usually go an extra mile. Most of these teachers have done a combination of two subjects, which you find, for example, if you have done a combination like history or geography, there are not those specific subjects or learning areas, as we call it in CBC. So what happens is that you have to go an extra mile to see how you can guide these students into acquiring these competencies as outlined by the CBC framework.
The government has announced that 45,000 more passports that are the last batch of the 700,000 passport backlog are now out and are ready for collection. According to Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, the government has already put in place measures for the expedition of the collection of the passports. Here are the details.
The government has put in place measures for the expedition of the collection of the final batch of the 45,000 passports, which are now ready for collection, and which also constitute the last batch of the 700,000 passports, whose production was delayed. This is according to the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki earlier today, when he made an interactive tour to various service delivery points relating to the application, production and collection of the Kenyan passports at Nyayo House. CS Kindiki highlighted that his ministry is currently in the process of transforming the service delivery in relation to the issuance of the Kenyan passports, as well as creating efficiency in the delivery of critical citizen services, notably identity documents, birth certificates, passports, as well as management of the foreign nationals in Kenya. In other updates, the amount organizations are paying to get back their data from cyber criminals has increased by 500% in the past year. This is according to a latest report titled The State of Ransomware 2024. The report shows that organizations paid an average of $2 million in ransom to hackers, up from $400,000, with the ransoms being just one part of the cost. Excluding ransoms, the survey found the average cost of recovery reached $2.73 million, an increase of almost $1 million since the $1.82 million that Sophos reported in 2023. Despite the soaring ransoms, this year's survey indicates a slight reduction in the rate of ransomware attacks, with 59% of organizations being hit, compared to 66% in 2023. The report that covered Europe, the Middle East and Africa shows that in this category 47% of organizations were hit by ransomware in the last 1 year. Hilary Kabila, GBS News.
Kenya will continue fostering good relations with Somalia in all areas of mutual interest to advance the socio-economic development of the two countries. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi said the collaboration will be anchored on strong fraternal bonds that rejuvenate bilateral relations driven by goodwill and determination. He said Kenya is keen on unlocking the full potential of cordial relations it enjoys with Somalia and all her neighbors in the region. He spoke at the third session of the Kenya-Somalia Joint Commission for Cooperation held in Nairobi. For Kenya, he said the Joint Commission is one of the most robust bilateral cooperation arrangements moving into the future. Mudavadi, also Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, congratulated Somalia for joining the East African Community, having deposited her instruments of ratification of the Treaty of Accession on March 4, 2024 in Arusha, Tanzania.
And Somalia, distinguished. Marks a significant occasion as we gather to discuss matters of mutual importance, guided by the shared vision of enhancing cooperation and fostering stronger ties between our two nations. Somalia and Kenya have a long-standing history of bilateral relations dating back to the inception of both nations. It is an example that distinguished presence of His Excellency Hamza Abdi Barre, the Prime Minister of the Federal Government of Somalia, whose visit underscores the importance we place on deepening the bonds of friendship and collaboration between our countries. This event not only underscores the strength of our bilateral relations, but also demonstrates our mutual commitment and eagerness to fully utilize each other's resources.
Today's strides in implementing a number of resolutions. For Kenya, we appreciate that mutually beneficial economic ties and investments flow between our two countries and the foundation for mutual benefit and integration. I wish to acknowledge with appreciation the resumption of Kenya Airways commercial flights on 14th February 2024 and the Somali Civil Aviation Authority's approval for KQ's request for 2023-2024 winter season schedule of freighter flights commencing on 9th February 2024. I also appreciate efforts made in enhancing cooperation in the fields of security, capacity building in the field of health through training of health professionals and the training of police officers.
Again, I will ask the two umpires.
Youth leaders from Mwea and Makema wards in Embu County have called on the government to partner with the organizations that are at the forefront in the fight against drugs and alcohol abuse. They said a lot of sensitization campaigns on dangers of drug and alcohol abuse need to be carried out, especially among the youth who are increasingly getting hooked to the vices. Mwema Youth Alliance patron Nicholas Kasanga say this will only be successful if the government and leaders across the country agree to work with established anti-drug crusader groups. Speaking on Sunday during a youth sensitization and empowerment meeting at Kitololoni Catholic Parish grounds in Makema, Kasanga called for goodwill and support from both the national and county governments in this war. The meeting was held in partnership with the NACADA alongside other institutions such as education and banking that also sought to assist in them set the career goals as well as business and investment ideas. They also commended Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for waging war on illicit booze.
Na sisi kama wanarika tunapotumia haya madawa ya kulevya yatachangia pakubwa sana kukuwa na mashinda katika jamii zetu, kama ni familia zitaweza kubomoka, zile familia changa kutokana na utumizi wa madawa ya kulevya. Pia kuna yale mambo ambayo taweza gusua furugu na kutakuwa na imani katika eneo zetu kwa ajili ya utumizi wa hayo madawa ya kulevya. Na pia tutaadhiri pia jamii yetu, kwa maana sisi wakati tutakuwa tunaleta furugu, jamii haitaweza kuwa ikisikizana.
My plea to government, I request the government to be partnering with the associations, organizations which are already established to ensure that they do as much of these programs, because we have seen that we need such of programs that deals with drug abuse in different sectors. So watoke pale juu, let them do programs kule rural areas in these sectors kama hizi tumefanya, na kule pia ambapo hakuna serikali karibu, let us be able to teach or educate these to young people as many as possible to young, na pia they should be sponsoring these programs which are they are made for the youths.
Because when the government is supporting us, pia tuko na nguvu. Tunaomba wazazi waweze kuachilia wanafunzi na youths pia, na pia wale youths ambao pia wanaweza kuwa wamaliza shule, they come together ili kuja tuweze kusaidiana. We do this thing together. Inawezekana tukishikana mkono, inawezekana tukishikana mkono na kutembea pamoja. So it is possible for the youth to unite and to fight anything that abuses what we call the human rights and the humanity.
Do keep your comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. Our report brings us to our international news, but first let us take a quick commercial break.
in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our
죄를
sins.
지셨고,
He carried our sins.
십자가에 못 박혀 죽어 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고,
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins.
무덤에 들어가셨다가,
and he was put into the tomb.
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak.
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
About how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being crucified.
우리 죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
He was crucified to pay for our sins.
예수 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데.
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and now to matters. International news. Togo's ruling union for the Republic Party won a sweeping majority in the country's legislative elections held on the 29th of April. Provisional results published late Saturday by the Electoral Commission showed it had won 106 out of the 113 seats in Parliament. Voting took place against the backdrop of heightened political tensions following the approval earlier in April of a controversial new constitution and a series of crackdowns on opposition protests. Here is more on the same.
Togo's ruling union for the Republic Party, UNIR, won a sweeping majority in the country's legislative elections that was held on April 29. Provisional results published last Saturday by the Electoral Commission showed it had won 108 out of the 113 seats in the parliament. The voting took place against the backdrop of heightened political tension following the approval earlier in April of a controversial new constitution and a series of crackdowns on opposition protests. The results paved the way for President Faure Gasibe to extend his 19-year rule under the new charter. It will also allow him to take the newly created post of President of the Council of Ministers, a role similar to Prime Minister that is automatically assumed by the leader of the majority party in the parliament. Under the previous constitution, Nasibe would have been able to run for president just one more time. This would have potentially allowed him to stay on as the head of state for a 5-year term starting in 2025. Opposition parties stated that the new post will allow him to avoid these new term limits and extend his family decades-long grip on power as long as the UNIR continues winning most seats in the National Assembly. After boycotting the last legislative election, they had been hoping to gain more seats in the parliament, enabling them to challenge UNIR. Regional observers as a whole stated that they were satisfied with how the election was conducted, but opposition parties denounced what they stated to be irregularities in the vote. Nasibe took control in Togo in 2005 when his father Nasibe Eyadema died after ruling the country for almost 40 years. Jane from Macau, GBS News.
There is a growing concern after prosecutors in the Democratic Republic of Congo opened a judicial inquiry against Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo of Kinshasa for seditious comments. Ambongo was accused of incitement after speaking out against insecurity in the east of the country, where the army is fighting the M23 rebels during his Easter Mass. Here are the details. Amidst the lush landscape of the Democratic Republic of Congo, a storm of controversy brews as prosecutors have initiated a judicial inquiry against Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo, the esteemed Archbishop of Kinshasa. Known as one of Pope Francis's principal advisors, Cardinal Ambongo finds himself entangled in legal proceedings for what authorities deem as seditious comments. His Easter Mass sermon, wherein he addressed
scored a tap-in to wrap up the victory in added time after Nacho raced through into the box and squared for his teammate to finish with ease. Goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois returned to the side for his first match of the season following a 9-month injury layoff because of a knee ligament injury. With 4 league matches remaining, Real Madrid needed just one more point to seal the title. Real Madrid have lost just 1 league game this season. It is Ancelotti's second La Liga title as a Real Madrid coach, having previously won it in 2021-2022. Real Madrid have now won 9 more titles than the 27 held by Barcelona. In another match, Barcelona led 2-1 at halftime, but 3 second-half goals from Girona left Real Madrid with an unassailable lead at the top. Defeat for Barcelona means Real Madrid have been crowned La Liga champions for the 36th time. Reporting for GBS TV, I am John Kenyanju.
Crystal Palace currently sit 14th in the Premier League points table. However, they may have their sights set on overtaking Brighton before the season ends, with their rivals just 4 points ahead of them. The Eagles have the ability in attack to punish Manchester United with the likes of their goal scorers not showing signs of stopping creating attacking chances. Crystal Palace won 1-0 against the Red Devils at Old Trafford earlier this season and could do well to add that win with a huge double as they look in great form with their star attackers in the form under the new manager. Manchester United attempt to avoid into more misery, more road as they travel to face Crystal Palace. The Red Devils' form could be described as patchy throughout the whole season. In their last match, they played against Burnley, who are in the relegation zone. The match ended in a 1-1 draw. Erik ten Hag's side have not won away from Old Trafford in their Premier League for more than 2 months. There will be no Champions League football for Manchester United next season. 6th position appears to be the best finish they can hope for. And that sports news brings us to the end of our news segment tonight. Here at GBS News at 9, we make your news our business. My name is Beatrice Njeri. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mathenge. Good night.